Have you ever been hurt? Right in the middle of your own family? I'm not talking about little arguments or petty misunderstandings. I mean that moment you look around a room full of people who say they love you and realize not one of them is standing up for you. I used to think I was just too sensitive, that maybe I imagined it, until the day my sister raised her hand and slapped my newborn baby across the face, right in front of everyone. But the real story, what happened after the slap, is what no one was prepared for. Because when the room went silent and every pair of eyes looked away, I knew this wasn't just about one violent moment. And trust me, you won't want to miss what happened next. My name is Elyse Carver, and at 34, before I tell you what made even my Army captain husband rise from his silence and draw the line she never saw coming, leave a like if you've ever been silenced by people who were supposed to protect you. And if you haven't already, subscribe. It seems small, but it tells me these stories matter, and that helps me keep telling more. The porch swing creaks beneath me, its slow rhythm syncing with the Carolina cicadas humming into the dusk. The air's thick with that late summer heaviness, like it's trying to hold something back. I've been sitting out here every evening since the reunion. 2 weeks. 2 long weeks of replaying that one moment on loop. It wasn't supposed to be like that. Family reunions used to mean potato salad, lawn chairs, cheap fireworks, kids screaming too loud and no one minding. But that Sunday, when Taryn arrived, late of course, all done up for her followers with a camera crew in tow, it already felt off. She swept into the backyard like she was hosting a red carpet, not walking into Mom's overgrown garden. Her voice was sugar-laced steel, all "hi darlings" and fake hugs, while someone trailed behind her, adjusting a mic on her lapel. That wasn't the first sign, though. No, it was the look in her eyes, like she was scouting for a scene, and she found one. Cale was fussing in my arms, squirming from the heat and the noise. I was trying to settle him, rocking gently, whispering, but his little cries carried over the clinking of glasses and fake laughter. Then I heard her. "God, Elyse, do something. That noise ruins my audio." I looked up. She wasn't smiling anymore. Before I could shift Cale to my shoulder, she was already standing in front of me. And then, so fast, I thought I'd imagined it. But I hadn't. Her hand came down, sharp and deliberate, smacking the side of my baby's cheek. Cale let out a scream I'd never heard before. Not just pain, but confusion. And everyone froze. I scooped him close, my hands trembling, the weight of his tiny body pressing into my chest like a shield. He was sobbing, those panicked, gulping cries that shattered something in me, but no one said a word. Not Mom, not Uncle Reed, not even Aunt Charlene, who once scolded me for wearing sneakers to church. They just stood there, eyes darting to the lens on Taryn's camera, pretending they didn't see what they just saw. "And Taryn?" She laughed. "Relax," she said, waving a hand like she was brushing off lint. "It was just a little tap. For God's sake, you're always so sensitive." Her voice was light, like it was all a joke. My grip on Cale tightened. I could feel the heat rising in my throat, the sting behind my eyes. But I didn't cry. Not then. I wanted to scream, wanted to throw something, anything, but my legs wouldn't move. My mouth stayed shut. Because in that moment, I realized I wasn't just angry. I was alone. I looked around again. Jackson was across the yard, near the grill. He hadn't seen it. I knew he hadn't. But now, he was staring at me. I saw the way his posture stiffened, the way his jaw set. He knew something was wrong. Mom moved first. She crossed the lawn quickly, placing a firm hand on my arm. Not comforting, restraining. "Let it go," she whispered, eyes not quite meeting mine. She didn't mean it. Didn't mean it? I could still see the red print on Cale's cheek, raw and fresh, like proof that something inside our family had just snapped. Taryn breezed past us, heading toward the patio, barking orders to her assistant about lighting angles. I sat back down slowly, rocking Cale again, though my arms were tight, stiff. He was still crying, quieter now, but shaken. I pressed my lips to his forehead, and the tears I'd been holding back finally spilled over. Why hadn't anyone stopped her? Why hadn't anyone stood up? Jackson came over a minute later. He didn't speak. He just crouched beside me, one hand on Cale's back, the other gripping mine. But still, no one else said a word. We took the family photo that evening anyway. Taryn posed in the center, camera-ready smile in place, while I stood at the edge, holding my baby, my skin prickling under her shadow. Later that night, I couldn't sleep. The baby monitor crackled beside me, and every tiny sound Kale made felt like thunder. My heart wouldn't slow down. I kept hearing her laugh. The worst part? I believed her when she said she didn't mean it, because that would have been easier. But no, the way she looked at me afterward, that smirk, the tilt of her chin, it wasn't guilt. It was satisfaction, like she'd won something. I kept asking myself, was I overreacting? But every time I replayed it, the answer was louder. No, because even if no one else said it, I saw the truth. And yet, the silence from my family, that was louder than the slap. Kale's breath was still catching in his sleep. Each tiny exhale sounded like a question I couldn't answer. The nursery nightlight threw soft amber across the room, casting long shadows that twitched every time a tree branch scraped the window pane. I sat on the floor beside his crib, legs folded, arms around myself, unable to stand or lie down. Like if I moved too quickly, the truth would catch up and swallow me whole. The red imprint on his cheek had faded some, but not enough. Not for me. I touched the spot lightly with the back of my fingers. He stirred, then settled. I didn't deserve him asleep, peaceful, trusting me again. My throat ached, not from crying because I hadn't cried. Not really. The tears had dried on my skin like salt crust, but the storm never left. It just waited beneath my ribs, pulsing with every breath. I wanted to scream into a pillow until my voice cracked. I wanted to hurl every framed family photo in this house against the wall and watch them shatter like the illusion I'd clung to for too long. But instead, I sat there, quiet, tense, listening, and remembering. Taryn had always known how to make things look like my fault. I was 12 the first time she broke something of mine and said I'd done it. My dad's old camera, his favorite. She'd dropped it while sneaking it out to film herself dancing in the woods like some fairy princess. When it hit the rocks and cracked, she panicked, shoved it into my hands, and called Mom over with crocodile tears already ready. I took the fall, and I still remember the look in her eyes as Mom scolded me. It wasn't guilt. It was triumph. I hadn't told that story in years, not even to Jackson. Maybe because a part of me still wanted to believe she could change, that she'd outgrow whatever mean streak had rotted through her, that when she smiled at Kale in photos and sent baby clothes, expensive ones always tagged on social media, maybe that meant something real. But now I knew better. I pressed my forehead to the edge of the crib, whispering, "I'm so sorry, baby." Kale stirred again, sighing in that twitchy baby way, and I caught my breath until he settled. His eyelashes fluttered in the half-light, his tiny fingers curled near his chest like he was protecting something precious. I had to protect him, from her, from all of them, if I had to. The next morning, I found Mom in the kitchen, stirring sugar into her tea like it was just another Tuesday. The clink of the spoon against porcelain was sharp, precise, too practiced. I walked in, barefoot on cold tile, Kale snug in the sling against my chest. His soft weight grounded me. Mom didn't look up. "You sleep at all?" she asked. "No," I said, voice like paper. She nodded once, as if that answered something. "Look," she began, "your sister, she hit my son. She didn't mean, she hit my son." I hadn't raised my voice. I didn't need to. The chill in it stopped her in place. She set the spoon down, slowly, hands hovering over her cup, like she wanted to cup the steam but couldn't bear the burn. "She's under a lot of pressure right now," Mom said finally. "The show, the contracts, the charity deal. She struck an infant, Mom. She's still your sister." I let the silence hang. Then she leaned closer. Eyes darted once to the hallway. "There are things you don't know," she said quietly. "Things that happened a long time ago. Between me and your father, and Taryn, we made an agreement." "What kind of agreement?" Her lips pressed into a thin line. "It's not important anymore." "It is to me." Kale stirred in the sling, and I bounced slightly, instinctively, even though my muscles were tight and shaking. "You're overreacting," she said softly. "You've always felt things a little too hard." And there it was, the family refrain. I walked out. I didn't slam the door. I didn't yell. I just walked out, Cale against my chest, my heart a stone in my throat. Outside, the sky was gray with that sticky Raleigh heat pressing down like wet wool. Cicadas buzzed somewhere unseen, and a lawn sprinkler clicked rhythmically across someone else's yard, an ordinary soundtrack to something unraveling. Jackson was by the car, arms crossed, scanning the house like it might erupt. He looked at me, eyes sharp, but didn't ask. He didn't need to. I opened the car, eased Cale into his seat, and closed the door gently. Then I just stood there, gripping the handle until my knuckles turned white. "I think she's hiding something," I said. "Your mom?" I nodded. Jackson stepped closer, voice low. "What do you want to do?" "I want the truth, all of it." We didn't leave just then, not yet. The reunion had 2 more days, and part of me, some stubborn, raw piece, wanted to watch, to see who else would sit quiet, who else would pretend nothing happened. That night, Taryn floated into the patio, gathering like nothing had happened. Champagne in one hand, glittery heels clicking over the stone tiles, laughter following her like perfume. She didn't look at me. She didn't need to, because her power had never been about confrontation. It was in the shrug, the gaslight, the dismissive giggle after violence. She knew no one would call her out, not here. And when our eyes finally met, just once across the twinkle-lit patio, she didn't blink. She smiled, like she'd already won. By the second morning, the air around the reunion had curdled into something brittle, polite, poisoned. We were gathered under the white canopy tent Dad rented before he passed, his big gesture, Mom always called it. Now it flapped weakly in the breeze, sun filtering through the mesh sides, casting strange patterns on everyone's skin, like nature itself didn't know what to make of us. Taryn sat at the long table draped in floral linen, sipping from a crystal glass like this was a magazine shoot. She had on a gauzy lemon-yellow dress, flawless makeup, and a smile so plastic it made my skin crawl. The bruise on Cale's cheek had faded, but mine hadn't. Someone had made deviled eggs. There was sweet tea, condensation trickling down mason jars. A few of the kids were laughing nearby, chasing bubbles, oblivious. But no one looked at me, not directly. Jackson stood a few feet away, near the grill with Uncle Reed. His posture was loose, but I knew him. His left hand flexed every few seconds. He was trying to stay calm. Taryn leaned in, voice bright like sugar, but slicing sharp. "You know, not everyone thought it was a big deal. I mean, it's not like I punched the baby." The words hit me like glass in the throat. My fork stopped halfway to my plate. I looked up slowly. Her eyes were already on me. She tilted her head. "You're really going to hold a grudge over a little tap? Girl, I thought you were tougher than that." I didn't answer. Couldn't. I could feel the silence rippling around us. Chairs creaked, a cough from across the table, someone rustling napkins just to have something to do. No one said a word. I waited, just one voice. One person to say, "That's not okay." Nothing. "Cale's fine," Taryn added with a shrug. "You're just dramatic." Dramatic, like when she used to pin my arms behind my back and whisper that I was adopted, like the time she locked me in the attic during a thunderstorm and told Mom it was my idea. Like all those moments that made me question whether I remembered them wrong, because everyone else acted like they hadn't happened at all. Mom stood suddenly, clearing her throat. "Let's not turn this into something ugly," she said, trying for cheerful. "We still need to get the family portrait before lunch." Jackson's jaw ticked. She wanted a photo. I caught his eye. He didn't speak, but something in him shifted. I saw it, like a wire being pulled tight. Back at the table, I folded my napkin slowly, carefully, fingers shaking just enough to betray me. I wasn't going to cry. Not here. Taryn leaned toward her assistant, Rhea, I think her name was. She was thin, pale, barely 20-something, wearing all black like someone forgot to tell her this was a reunion, not a funeral. Rhea scribbled something in a planner, not looking up. She hadn't said much since they arrived, but I noticed her watching, eyes flicking from face to face like she was cataloging reactions. A few minutes later, while I was changing Cale's diaper inside, I spotted her alone in the hallway. Her back was to me, body angled toward the coat closet. She was tucking something small into her bag. I froze. "Need help?" I asked casually, stepping in just enough to make her jump. She whipped around, clutching the bag to her side. "Oh, no, just Receipts. Her voice cracked at the end. She brushed past me too quickly. I stood there, staring at the closet door like it might open itself. Why was she nervous? Why lie? That afternoon, Jackson pulled me aside behind the shed, where no one else could hear. "You okay?" he asked, voice low. "No." I looked down at my hands. They're acting like it never happened. They know it did. Then why are they protecting her? He didn't answer right away, just looked past me toward the yard where Taryn posed with two cousins, tossing her hair for the camera like nothing in the world could touch her. "She makes them feel important," he finally said. "They're afraid of what happens if they stop pretending." I wanted to scream. Instead, I just nodded, my throat too tight for anything else. We didn't leave that night either. Part of me still hoped someone, anyone, would speak up. That hope was starting to rot inside me. That evening, Rhea sat alone on the edge of the porch, flicking through her phone. Her fingers moved fast, nervous. When I walked up, she locked the screen too quickly. "You okay?" I asked, keeping my voice neutral. She nodded, too fast. "Yeah, fine. You've worked with her a long time?" "A year, a little more." I waited. She didn't say anything else, but her eyes lingered on Cale's cheek, still pink, barely noticeable now, but not to a mother, and not apparently to her. "I saw you writing something earlier," I said carefully. "Near the coat closet?" She looked at me then, really looked, and for a second, her face shifted. Not fear, not guilt, something else, pity. "Don't trust everything you think you know," she whispered. Then she stood and walked off into the twilight. What did that mean? Inside, Taryn laughed loud, tossing back another glass of wine. Her voice echoed off the high ceilings like a spotlight, drawing everyone toward her orbit again. And me? I sat on the porch swing, Cale in my lap, watching the shadows get longer. Whatever Rhea was hiding, it wasn't small, and I was going to find it. The final night of the reunion was supposed to be a send-off, barbecue, family slideshow, group hugs, but even the cicadas seemed to sense something was off. The air hung heavy, damp, and electric, like the sky itself was holding its breath. I stayed close to the edge of the yard, Cale nestled against my chest in the carrier. His warmth soothed me, but only just. My eyes tracked Taryn's every move. She floated around in a champagne-colored jumpsuit like she owned the air we breathed. Laughing, posing, whispering things that made people flinch, then laugh again, as if nothing she said ever really mattered. I wanted to scream, but screaming would only prove her point, that I was hysterical, over-emotional, too sensitive. So I stood there, still and quiet, watching from the dark edge of the porch like a ghost at my own family's funeral. Jackson hadn't said much all day. He kept busy fixing lights, hauling coolers, flipping burgers, but his eyes never left me. That meant more than anything anyone else had done all weekend. I hadn't told him the full story about the coat closet, about Rhea. Not yet. I was still trying to make sense of it myself, but he knew something was coming. So did I. And it came during dinner. The backyard was lit with string lights, long tables full of sweating soda bottles and wilting potato salad. People were chatting, kids running barefoot, as if we weren't all playing a part in something dark and silent. Taryn stood near the head of the table, swirling her wine, her voice slicing through the chatter like a blade wrapped in velvet. "I think we've all had a very healing weekend," she said. "Even Elyse, right?" I didn't move. She walked closer. "I mean, we can't stay mad forever," she added, smiling wide, "especially over something so small." That word, small. Like my son's face was a speck of dust. Like pain wasn't real unless it came with bruises and blood. My breath caught. My vision tunneled. I felt Cale stir against my chest, and I anchored myself to him, to his weight, to the reason I hadn't collapsed yet. Jackson was already walking toward us. Not fast, not loud, just steady. Taryn turned just as he stopped in front of her. She opened her mouth, probably ready to deliver some cutting remark, but he beat her to it. "Leave." One word. Quiet. But it landed like a detonator. Taryn blinked. "Excuse me?" He didn't blink. "You hit my son. You lied. You laughed about it." She laughed now, too loud, like she thought this was still her show. "Oh, come on, Captain America, don't go all boot camp on me." Jackson didn't move. "You're done here." For the first time all weekend, the table went completely silent. "You don't get to decide who belongs in this family," Taryn snapped. "I don't," he said, "but I do get to decide who's allowed around my wife and child." And then came the twist, the part that made my stomach drop. Taryn's smile didn't falter. Instead, she reached into her bag and pulled out her phone. "Already got what I needed," she said sweetly. "Content's gold. You'll be trending by morning." She turned the screen toward us. A thumbnail flashed. Me, clutching Kale, red-eyed, looking wild. Jackson's voice from just seconds ago. "You're done here." "Reality show pilot," she added with a wink. "You just gave me the perfect finale." I couldn't breathe. It had all been recorded, the slap, the silence, our reactions, our pain, edited, twisted, packaged, and now, viral. Mom stood frozen by the grill, lips parted, as if she might object, but she didn't. No one did. Jackson took a slow step closer. His voice dropped an octave. "You post that, and I'll make sure every legal route is explored, every defamation law, every child protection statute. You won't walk away untouched." Taryn's smile faltered. Barely, but I saw it. "You wouldn't dare," she said. He leaned in. "Try me." That shook her. I saw it. Her fingers tightened around her phone, knuckles whitening. Then she laughed, high and sharp, and turned toward the gate. "I've got what I need. This reunion's over." She walked off into the night, her heels crunching over gravel, the camera crew trailing behind like ghosts. The silence she left behind was suffocating. Someone cleared their throat, a plate clinked, conversation tried to resume, like a record skipping back to a ruined song. But it was over. At least the charade was. Later that night, Jackson held Kale while I washed bottles in the kitchen. The sound of water hitting porcelain felt louder than it should have. "She'll post it," I said quietly. "Let her." He said it with a calm I didn't feel. "It's not just about us anymore," I added. "She made it a story." Jackson didn't answer right away. He just rocked Kale gently, pressing a kiss to his forehead. "She's gone," he finally said. "For now, that's what matters." But I didn't believe it. Not really. Because when I turned the lights off and walked back to the bedroom, I noticed something on the table by the front door. A piece of paper. Folded once. No name. Just my name scrawled across the front. I opened it with shaking hands. Inside, in tiny print, "She always makes backups." No signature, no explanation. But I knew exactly who had left it and exactly what it meant. I kept the note hidden, folded it twice, then again, and slipped it into the back of my nursing textbook like it was radioactive. Even now I can feel the corners biting into the pages like a quiet threat. "She always makes backups." Just 5 words. But they rearranged everything I thought I knew about Taryn, and maybe about Rhea too. The house felt too still after she left. Not peaceful, sterile, like someone had cut the air out of it. Even Kale seemed unusually quiet that morning, playing with the hem of my shirt while I sat on the porch steps with a mug of coffee I hadn't touched. Jackson had gone for a run. It was his way of managing stress. Sweat it out, run it into the pavement. Mine was quieter. Stillness. Remembering. The Georgia sun was already hot, even though it wasn't yet 9 a.m. Humidity clung to my skin, made my shirt stick to the back of my neck. The porch wood was warm under my legs, but I couldn't move. Something in me had shifted again. I don't know what made the memory hit just then. Maybe the light or the smell of old soil after rain. But suddenly I was 12 again, crouched in the dirt behind the old shed at our family farmhouse. Taryn had locked me in there. She was 14, tall for her age, pretty in the way that made adults say model material. She'd dared me to climb inside and count to 100, told me there was something hidden in the rafters, an old journal or a map. I believed her. The door slammed behind me before I'd even counted to 10. I kicked. I screamed. I pounded on the wood until my knuckles split. She didn't come back for 3 hours. When Mom found out, she called it a silly game. Taryn cried, said she forgot, said I wanted to stay inside, said I was always so dramatic, just like now. My fingers tightened around the coffee cup until the ceramic clicked against itself. I stood up abruptly, brought Kale inside, and called Maris. She picked up on the second ring. "Still breathing?" she asked. "Barely. Are you home?" "Yeah. I'm coming over." Her voice dropped. Bring wine. Maris's house hadn't changed since high school. Same faded porch swing, same chipped mailbox, same overgrown lavender patch by the fence. She hugged me tight at the door and didn't let go right away. Inside, we sat on her couch while Cale napped in the portable crib beside us. The ceiling fan clicked above us, and somewhere outside, a neighbor's lawnmower droned in slow, lurching swipes. I handed her the note. She read it, twice. "Backups," she said slowly. "She's already edited the footage," I said. "She could drop it whenever she wants." "She won't. Not until it serves her." "But what does she have on me? What could she twist now?" Maris set the note down, eyes distant. "I wouldn't put it past her to dig up something from childhood, or fake something." "I keep thinking there's something I missed," I whispered. "Something she's holding over Mom." Maris's gaze flicked up. "There is." "What?" She hesitated. "Maris, there was a letter, one summer, back when we were maybe 16. I don't think you knew about it." "What kind of letter?" "It was from your Aunt Cora. She sent it after a visit. Said she caught Taryn hurting one of the younger cousins. Said she was going to tell Lauren unless something changed." My heart dropped. "She burned it," Maris said. "Taryn, right after reading it. I only know because I saw her behind the barn that night, feeding it to a lighter." "Why didn't you tell me? You were already so beat down. I didn't know what to do, and then things moved on and—" She trailed off. But something was unraveling in my mind, connections snapping into place. "They protected her," I said slowly. "They always did." "Because she was the star," Maris added. "She made the family look good. You were the one who cried too loud." I nodded, the ache behind my eyes turning sharp. Back home that evening, Jackson and I sat in the kitchen with the monitor crackling softly beside us. Cale stirred, then quieted again. I told him everything, about the letter, the shed, the note. Jackson's face darkened, but his voice stayed calm. "We need to find out what backups she has, and what else she's hiding. We can't ask Rhea outright. If she's scared, then we get her on our side another way." I bit my lip. "Like how?" Jackson leaned forward, folding his arms. "We offer her something Taryn never did. Safety." There was a beat of silence. Then I remembered something. Rhea's expression that night on the porch. That flicker of pity. Maybe she was already halfway there, but I had to move carefully. One wrong step and this would all collapse. Later that night, I opened my laptop and scrolled through old emails, photos, text chains. I searched Cora, letter, shed. Nothing. But then, in a shared family photo folder, I saw something strange. A photo from that summer in Georgia. Taryn in a white dress, standing near the barn. Behind her, barely visible, a wisp of smoke curling into the air. It started with a ping. I was halfway through folding laundry, Cale babbling beside me on the carpet, when my phone lit up. One notification, then 5, then 20. Texts, mentions, missed calls. At first I thought something had happened to Jackson. My heart jumped so hard, I dropped a pair of Cale's pajamas. I swiped open the phone, hands already cold. It wasn't Jackson, it was Taryn. She'd posted a video. I clicked the link and watched the thumbnail load. Taryn, looking somber in soft lighting, no makeup, her eyes red-rimmed and glassy. A gray sweatshirt hung off her shoulder like armor. The title made my stomach flip. "My Sister Hit Me. The Truth About Our Family Feud." My chest went hollow. I hit play. The soft piano music in the background made everything feel more intimate, more believable. She spoke directly to the camera, voice trembling just enough to seem real. "I've kept this inside for too long," she began, looking down at her hands. "But after what happened at the reunion, I can't stay silent anymore." She painted herself as the victim, said I'd snapped, that I'd screamed, shoved her, slapped her, claimed she tried to de-escalate, and I became violent in front of the baby. I stared at the screen, frozen. She even included a clip, heavily edited. Jackson's voice, "You're done here." My face, mid-yell, no sound from me. Just the image of me holding Cale, eyes red, jaw tight, while Taryn flinched back in slow motion. My throat clenched. It wasn't real, but it looked real. And people were eating it up. The comments were a war zone. Half believed her, calling her brave and honest. The other half demanded context, screenshots, receipts. My inbox exploded within the hour. Family members texted me. confused, angry, self-righteous. Aunt Janice, I thought you were better than this. My cousin Derek, why would you hit her on camera? Mom, you've ruined everything. I stood in the middle of the living room, the pile of warm laundry untouched on the couch. Cale reached for a toy beside him, babbling nonsense while the walls around me started to tilt. I couldn't breathe. Jackson came home 20 minutes later, and I showed him everything. He watched the video silently, jaw tight, eyes unreadable. When it ended, he said only one word: framed. She had this planned, I said. All of it. Jackson nodded once. And now she's pulling the family in. She's weaponizing our silence, I whispered. She knew no one defended me that day. She knew no one would contradict her version. She counted on it. I felt myself trembling, sat down hard on the edge of the couch and grabbed a baby sock just to have something to grip. The betrayal wasn't new, but the precision of it, the orchestration, this wasn't impulsive. This was strategy. A few hours later, I got a call from Maris. I saw it, she said, skipping any greeting. It's already at 500,000 views. She's winning, I said. Not for long. There was something different in Maris's voice. Steadier, focused. I think Ria's ready, she added. She called me. I blinked. What? She wants to talk. My heart kicked once, then twice. She said she can't watch this happen anymore. That night, Ria met me at the edge of the military base where Jackson and I lived. We chose neutral ground, an empty picnic table near the playground, long after the kids had gone home and the sun had dipped behind the barracks. Ria looked smaller without her usual blazer. She wore a hoodie and jeans, and her hair was tied back like she was trying not to be recognized. She clutched a manila envelope with both hands, like it was life support. She didn't sit right away, just looked at me. I'm sorry, she said. Her voice cracked on the second word. I didn't say anything. I couldn't trust softness anymore. I recorded everything, the whole reunion, not just what she wanted. My breath caught. She told me to delete the extra footage, but I didn't. Something about it felt wrong, especially after what she did to your baby. I clenched my jaw. She was proud of it, Ria added. Said the outrage would boost her numbers. Said if she made you look unstable, you'd never fight back. I nodded slowly. That's exactly what she counted on. Ria slid the envelope across the table. There's a hard drive inside, original files, dates, unedited audio. I hesitated, then took it. My hands were shaking. She's not just manipulative, Ria said quietly. She's dangerous, and she always has a plan B. I looked at her then, really looked. Her shoulders were hunched like she'd been carrying this for months, maybe years. I won't let her ruin my family, I said. Ria nodded. Then don't wait too long. She's about to go further. I narrowed my eyes. What do you mean? She's filming something new. I overheard her last week. She wants to leak a clip where you admit to hating your mother. Something about the will. She's rewriting the whole narrative. I swallowed hard. She's turning them all against me. No, Ria said softly. She's trying to isolate you. That's different. We sat there in silence, the night stretching long around us. Crickets chirped in the distance, and the base lights flickered like sentinels. When I got home, I slid the envelope into our fireproof safe, locked it, then turned to Jackson. She's coming for blood, I said, and he answered without hesitation. Then let's be ready. The first time I saw him, I told myself it was nothing. We were walking near the edge of the base, Cale in the stroller, sun tucked low behind gray clouds that hadn't yet decided whether they'd rain. The trees swayed gently in the warm breeze, pine needles rustling like whispers. Birds chirped in high branches, and for a moment, things felt calm again. Then I saw it, a figure, tall, still, just beyond the tree line, not moving, watching. I blinked, slowed my pace, but when I looked again, he was gone. Probably a base guard, or a jogger. That's what I told myself. But something inside me didn't believe it. The next morning it happened again, this time outside the commissary. I was loading groceries into the trunk when I caught movement in the rearview mirror, quick, deliberate, then stillness. He was standing behind a row of cars, just far enough away to seem accidental, just close enough to make it feel intentional. I stepped back and scanned the lot, empty except for two other women heading toward the exit and a few parked cars, but the man was gone again. That night I barely slept. I lay awake with Cale curled up beside me in the co-sleeper, listening to the base's quiet hum. Jackson was still at a late debrief. The baby monitor clicked every few minutes with static. I kept imagining footsteps on the gravel outside, imagining eyes pressed to the window. By the third time, I stopped making excuses. It was 2 days later, late afternoon, Cale and I taking a walk again, this time near the trail by the dog park. The stroller's wheels crunched softly over gravel, the air thick with heat and the smell of cut grass. Then I felt it. The hairs on my neck stood up first, a shift in the atmosphere, like I was being counted, measured. I turned slowly. He stood just behind a utility shed, half-shadowed. His posture was too still, too deliberate, face mostly covered by a baseball cap and sunglasses. But the angle of his body, the tension in his shoulders, told me what I needed to know. He wasn't here for a walk. I didn't hesitate this time. I grabbed the stroller handles and pushed fast, heart pounding so hard I couldn't hear anything else. I didn't run, not with Cale strapped in, but I moved with purpose, eyes darting back every few seconds. When we got home, I locked every door, pulled every curtain, and then I found it. A photo, slipped under the doormat. No envelope, no note. Just a 4x6 snapshot of Cale at the park yesterday, in his little red hat, swinging gently, laughing. The shot was crystal clear, taken from a distance, but personal, too personal. I felt sick. I clutched the photo so tightly my hands ached. My legs gave out, and I sat on the floor, knees pulled to my chest, Cale asleep in the carrier against me, blissfully unaware of the storm gathering around him. Jackson found me there when he got home. I didn't even hear the door open. He dropped to his knees in front of me. "What happened?" he asked. I handed him the photo. His jaw locked. I could see it. His entire body went still in that soldier way, like a machine reloading itself for impact. He didn't ask who sent it. We both knew. "She's not finished," I whispered. "No," he said. "She's just changing tactics." We called base security, filed a report. I showed them the photo, described the man, but without a license plate, a name, or a clear shot of his face, there wasn't much they could do except make a note and tell us to keep an eye out. Jackson doubled our home security that night, rechecked the outdoor cameras, reinforced the latches on every door and window. But no matter what he did, I didn't feel safe. Because this wasn't just about content anymore. This was surveillance, a message. She wanted me scared, paranoid. She wanted to rattle me from the inside out, and I hated that it was working. That night, while Cale slept and Jackson ran one last check around the perimeter, I sat in the nursery with the lights off. I needed the quiet. The dark. I looked at Cale's face, soft, round, safe for now, and I made a promise to him. She will not win. Later, as I tucked the photo away in a drawer full of his birth records and baby teethers, I noticed something odd about the paper. It wasn't just a normal print. There was writing on the back, smudged ink, a number, a time. I held it to the lamp. It was faint, like it had been written quickly, maybe with a shaking hand, but I could make it out. R2, Monday, 2 p.m. I stared at it, the chill climbing my spine like ice water. A meeting? A drop? A threat? I didn't know, but I was going to find out. I arrived at the park early. It was Monday, 1:52 p.m. The number on the back of the photo haunted me all weekend. R2, Monday, 2 p.m. And I didn't know what I expected. A trap? Another twisted performance? But I needed to be there. I needed to know. The park was nearly empty. The August sun beat down heavy on the metal benches, warping the air above them like heat ghosts. Cale was home with Jackson. I couldn't risk bringing him. I sat on the bench by the duck pond. A soft breeze moved through the cattails. Somewhere nearby, a child laughed, but I couldn't feel any of it. Every instinct screamed for me to leave. At 2:04, Maris appeared from the opposite path, her expression pinched, phone in hand. She slid beside me without a word and handed me the screen. Ria's name lit up the top. "She didn't show," Maris said, voice tight. "But she sent this." It was a file transfer, video. I hesitated, then tapped play. The image was grainy but clear enough. Taryn's voice, her reflection in a makeup mirror, talking to someone off-screen. "If she pushes too hard, I'll leak the email. I'll say it proves she threatened Cale's safety. People love a good mother-villain arc." My mouth went dry. "And if that doesn't work," she added with a smirk, There's always Lauren. She'll do what I tell her. She always has. I paused the video. The phone shook slightly in my hands. She recorded that at the hotel, Maris said. Rhea saved it. Has anyone else seen it? Not yet, but there's more. We didn't talk. Not really. We just watched. One file after another. Footage from the reunion. Unedited, raw, the slap, the laughter. My family's frozen faces. Taryn's dismissive shrug. The moment Jackson told her to leave. And then, another clip. Rhea, on a video call, whispering into her phone. She made me alter timestamps, she said. She told me to splice Elyse's reaction to make her look violent. She said if I didn't do it, she'd ruin my visa sponsorship. My chest tightened. I looked over at Maris. She threatened her immigration status? I asked, voice sharp. Maris nodded. Rhea's here on a work visa. Taryn knows exactly how to corner people. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I just felt numb. We sat in silence for a moment, the ducks waddling at the edge of the pond, quacking softly like background noise in a movie that no longer felt real. When we stood to leave, Maris placed her hand gently on my shoulder. You're not crazy, Elyse, she said. You never were. It was the closest I'd come to crying in days. By the time I got home, Jackson had cleared the kitchen table and was already laying out files, audio transcripts, and the hard drive Rhea had given us earlier. His military training kicked in, everything cataloged, labeled, time-stamped. This is enough to burn her down, he said, pointing at the folder labeled Reunion Raw. And yet, I whispered, she's still out there, smiling, posting. He looked up. That's why we go public, but on our terms. Not through gossip, I said, not through rumor. The whole truth, all of it. He nodded once. Rhea's ready to speak, on camera. My heart skipped. She's willing to risk that? She said she's tired of watching from the sidelines. I sat down slowly, scanning the materials spread out before me. Dozens of pieces, each one damning, each one more twisted than the last. Together, they painted a portrait no amount of PR could erase. But one thing still nagged at me. Why does Lauren go along with it? I asked. She's not stupid. She saw what happened. Jackson hesitated. Money? Maybe, I said, but I think it's deeper. He tilted his head. What do you mean? She's protecting something. Not just Taryn, but a part of herself, a version of the family she's desperate to keep intact. And if that means burying the truth, so be it. We sat in silence, both chewing on that. Later that night, after Cale had fallen asleep in his crib, I returned to the park video, replaying Taryn's voice on loop. She always has. She always has. She always has. I opened an old storage bin in the closet, one I hadn't touched since Cale was born. Inside were old journals, notebooks from nursing school, and a box of letters. My stomach flipped. I hadn't opened it in years. Inside were cards and notes from birthdays, family trips, scattered memories in cursive and fading ink. But near the bottom, folded inside a blank envelope, I found one addressed to my mother, from Aunt Cora. It wasn't the original. It was a scanned copy, dated almost 20 years ago. Dear Lauren, I saw what your daughter did to mine, and I saw how you looked away. I won't press charges, for now, but I won't stay silent forever. I hope you understand the risk you're taking. I sat there frozen, the words searing into me like a brand. This wasn't just silence. This was complicity. I ran to the kitchen, pulled the phone from the counter, and called Maris. You were right, I said. There was a letter, and Mom knew. Maris didn't ask how I found it. She didn't need to. What are you going to do? She asked. I looked at the pages spread out in front of me, at Cale's photo on the fridge, at the soft glow of his nightlight from down the hall. I'm going to bring it all into the light. My mother called at 6:41 a.m. the next morning. Her name on my screen felt like a dare. My fingers hovered over decline for a beat too long, but then I answered. Elyse, she said, voice raw. Can you come over? She didn't offer an explanation, just an address, not the family home, a motel off the interstate, room 118. The air was still heavy with dew when I pulled into the lot. The building looked like a place meant for secrets, brown-stained siding, sagging curtains, a soda machine flickering like it was half asleep. I knocked once. She opened the door almost immediately. Her hair was damp, no makeup. Her eyes, usually tight and unreadable, were swollen, rimmed in red. She looked smaller. The room smelled like motel soap and cold coffee. She didn't ask me to sit. I didn't need her to. Instead, she walked to the edge of the bed, sat, and patted the space beside her. I stayed standing. "I need you to listen," she said. I crossed my arms. "Then talk." She took a shaky breath, fingers twisting the hem of her sleeve like she didn't know what to do with them. "When you were 9, Taryn shoved you into the garden fence. You broke your wrist." I said nothing. I remembered. "You told me what happened. You were sobbing. I told you it was an accident." "You said I tripped." "I lied." She looked up. "I knew. I saw it from the kitchen window." The silence between us grew roots. "I told your father," she said. "He wanted to punish her, take her out of school for a while, maybe therapy. But you stopped him." "I did." "Why?" Her hands dropped into her lap. "Because by then, it was already too late." I stared at her. "She was different," she said. "Even as a toddler. She didn't cry when she was hurt. She'd mimic people's expressions, but it never looked right. I told myself she'd grow out of it." I leaned against the dresser, arms still crossed. "You made excuses." "I made choices," she whispered. "She lied. She hit. She manipulated. And every time I covered it up, because I didn't know what else to do." "You protected her." "I thought I was protecting all of us." The words were soft but sharp. They landed like glass. "She threatened me," Mom added. "Even when she was young. Said if I didn't back her story, she'd tell everyone about the affair." I blinked. "What affair?" Her mouth tightened. "You cheated on Dad?" She didn't respond. It hit me then, harder than I expected. "I kept thinking," I said, "that maybe you were in denial, that maybe you just couldn't see it. But you saw everything." Her chin trembled. "I was afraid." "No, you were complicit." She looked up and for once didn't flinch. "She told me last year," I said, voice cold, "that if you didn't back her version of events, she'd leak things, twist the narrative, make it look like I'd hurt Cale." My mother closed her eyes. "She's still using you," I said. "And you're still letting her." "I want to stop." I stepped back. "Then prove it." She hesitated, then reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. Thick, sealed. "What is that?" "It's your grandfather's will. The original copy, before the update." I stared at it. "What update?" "After he died, Taryn convinced me to file an amendment. It left everything to her, his property, the stocks, the lake house." "And you forged it." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Yes." I stepped back like the air had cracked between us. "She promised to take care of the family brand," Mom added. "Said she'd invest, expand, that she'd keep the Carver name respected." "You let her buy your loyalty." "I let her buy my silence." I wanted to scream, to throw something, but I didn't. I stood frozen in that peeling motel room, surrounded by secrets that had lived longer than most of my friendships. I took the envelope. "You're going to go on record," I said. "You're going to say everything." Her eyes widened. "Elyse?" "You owe Cale the truth." The silence was thick and awful. Then she nodded. "I'll do it." I turned to leave. My fingers hovered at the doorknob. "She's not finished," Mom said suddenly. "She told me she's working on a new story." I turned. "What kind of story?" "She's planning a comeback, framing herself as a survivor of emotional abuse, of you." I shook my head. "That won't work. She has fake texts, edited voicemails. She's building her version, Elyse, and she's fast." I swallowed hard. "Be faster," Mom said. "That's the only way to beat her." That night, back at home, I locked the original will in our fireproof safe. Cale was asleep. Jackson sat at the dining table, poring over timelines. Dates, headlines. We had everything now. The files, the footage, the confession. I opened my laptop. One window for the legal team. One for the live stream. One for the reckoning. The night we went live, the house was almost too quiet. Jackson had triple-checked the baby monitor and moved Cale's crib into the farthest corner of the bedroom. Every door was locked, every curtain drawn. The kitchen was clean, but I couldn't stop wiping the same spot on the counter while the stream buffered. A single desk lamp lit the corner of the dining room. That's where we set up, me, Jackson, and Maris. No backdrop, no special lighting, just truth. I stared into the camera lens like it was a lifeline. The timer hit 0. We were live. At first, the view count ticked up slowly. 37, 81, 106. Then someone shared it. 2 minutes in, it jumped to 400. By 10 minutes, we passed 1,000. I cleared my throat, voice shaking slightly. "My name is Elyse Carver," I said. "Some of you may have heard my sister's version of the story. Tonight, I'm going to share mine." Jackson sat beside me, silent but steady, his hand resting lightly on my knee beneath the table. I began with the reunion, with Cale, with the slap. I didn't cry, I didn't dramatize, I just told the truth. How she'd struck him, laughed, how no one had intervened. Then I showed the footage, the unedited clip. I watched the chat explode in real time. Gasps, curses, messages like, "Why didn't anyone stop her?" And "This is horrifying." Then I introduced Rhea. She appeared on camera from her apartment, face pale but composed. "I was her assistant for over a year," she said, "and I helped her cover up things I shouldn't have. I doctored footage. I posted statements under her name. I watched her rehearse tears." She paused. "And I watched her hurt people, on purpose." The chat exploded again. Maris played the next clip, Taryn threatening to leak faked emails about me abusing Cale. Her voice on camera was calm, chilling, calculating. Then the will. I read aloud the original and placed it side by side with the forged version. "My mother has agreed to testify that the amendment was falsified under pressure," I said, "and she's not the only one who was threatened." The video call with my Aunt Cora followed. Her voice trembled, but she confirmed the letter. Confirmed what she saw. The screen flickered for a moment, then the comment section froze. For a heartbeat, I thought we lost the connection, but then the view count jumped. By thousands. Taryn had entered the chat. She commented only once. "Nice try, sis. Hope you're ready for the real truth." The message vanished after 60 seconds. Deleted. But not before it was screenshotted hundreds of times. I swallowed hard and ended the stream with one final clip. Cale's laugh in the background, Jackson holding him, our little family intact. And then I said what I meant to say all along. No influencer, no legacy, no family brand is worth a child's safety. The screen went black. We sat there in silence for a moment. Then Jackson stood and pulled me into his arms. "You did it," he said softly. "I don't know what I did," I murmured into his chest, "but I know it's out there now." The next morning, it was everywhere. Podcasts picked it up. A news blog ran the headline, "Influencer exposed by her own family." Her sponsors dropped fast. First the skincare brand, then the wellness subscription box, then the coffee chain that used to feature her on their Instagram twice a week. Within 24 hours, Taryn went silent. But silence from her was never peace. It was preparation. That night, I got a call from a blocked number. I didn't answer. It left a voicemail anyway. "Don't get too comfortable," she whispered. "People forget, and I always come back stronger." Click. I played it 3 times, each word carving itself deeper into my spine. But I didn't flinch. I forwarded it to the lawyer. I forwarded it to the police. Then I forwarded it to myself, because I needed to remember. Jackson and I stayed up late again that night, filing formal complaints, logging every file, every message. At one point, I stepped outside just to breathe. The base was quiet. A breeze moved through the trees, and somewhere in the distance, a train hummed across its tracks. I leaned against the porch railing, closed my eyes, and for the first time in weeks, let myself feel the weight of it all, the fear, the fury, the strange calm that comes after you've shown the world your deepest bruise. Behind me, the door creaked open. "Someone leaked her financials," Maris said. "It's worse than we thought. She didn't just lie, she embezzled. Family accounts, brand money, even your grandfather's trust." I turned slowly. "Is it traceable?" "Oh, yeah. Rhea found the transfers." I blinked. "Then we've got her." "Almost," she said. "But one thing's missing." "What?" "Proof she tried to silence you, the pattern of it." I reached for my phone. My inbox pinged with a new email. Anonymous sender. Subject: proof of pattern. One file attached. Audio. I pressed play. Taryn's voice again. "She's emotional. Always has been. Will say she had postpartum, that she imagined the slap, that she needs help, not revenge. Audiences love redemption arcs." I looked at Maris. "She planned everything." And now, Maris said, it's time we show them the whole plan. The base cookout was supposed to be small, just a few families, paper plates, and a banged-up speaker looping country songs no one really listened to, but somehow it grew into something bigger. Word spread fast after the live stream. People showed up with coolers, desserts, lawn chairs, someone brought sparklers, someone else set up a bounce house. I hadn't planned on going. I didn't think I had the energy to smile, but Maris showed up at my door that morning with 2 armfuls of cupcakes and said, "You're coming. You're not allowed to win a war and stay home." So I came. Jackson carried Cale on his shoulders, his tiny hands tangled in Jackson's hair. I walked between them, trying to blend in, trying not to notice the sideways glances or whispered greetings. But they weren't sharp. They weren't pitying. They were warm, supportive. A few of the wives I barely knew from the holiday potluck walked up with hugs. One slipped a note in my hand. "You're stronger than you think." And I believed her. We spread out under the pine trees, the needles overhead filtering the sun into golden stripes. Cale giggled on a blanket nearby, smacking a juice box like it held the secrets of the world. For once, he didn't cry when someone new tried to hold him. Jackson grilled burgers beside another dad, both of them wearing matching aprons that read "Smoke and Respect." I laughed when I saw it. Not forced, not bitter, just free. Freedom tasted like potato salad and wood smoke. I sat on a folding chair next to Maris, letting the voices of the others wash over me. A breeze stirred the edge of the tablecloth, and the faint squeal of Cale's baby laugh floated through the air. It felt like something was healing, but healing doesn't mean forgetting. Later, after the sun dipped behind the barracks and the sparklers fizzled out, Jackson and I stood on the porch while Cale slept inside. The sky was indigo, just beginning to fill with stars. "She's going to try again," I said softly. "I know. She doesn't just vanish." He didn't argue. "But this time," I added, "she's not going to find the same person she left behind." He stepped closer, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. "You think she's done?" "No," I said, "but I am." I meant it. The fear, the waiting, the walking on eggshells around a family that never protected me. That era was over. Inside, I opened a message from Rhea. Got word she's contacting a publisher, wants to spin it into a comeback memoir, claims she's the real victim. I didn't even blink. I replied with a photo. Cale sleeping with a stuffed bear, his cheeks pink, his mouth parted in pure peace. No one's going to buy it anymore. Not after this. Maris and a few others had started a private forum. Women like me, people Taryn had used, ghosted, manipulated. The list kept growing. I posted Rhea's clip in the group that night, the one where Taryn talked about faking postpartum claims. Someone commented, "This isn't a takedown, it's an awakening." And that felt right. Still, not all wounds bleed in public. There were quiet things, sharp things, like seeing a photo of Taryn's face on a clickbait headline and feeling my stomach twist, or hearing Cale babble "auntie" while playing, and wondering if he remembered something I didn't want him to, or dreaming of the farmhouse again, of the shed door closing, my fingers scraping wood, the world going black while my sister laughed on the other side. But the difference now was that I didn't carry those moments alone. One night, I scrolled through my phone and found a picture of Maris, Jackson, and me at the cookout. Cale in my lap, Jackson mid-laugh, Maris holding up a burger like she just won an award. The photo was slightly crooked, the lighting bad, but it was real. I posted it to my private story. Caption, "This is what family looks like." I didn't think much of it until the next morning. I woke to dozens of new messages, DMs, tags, shares. Women reaching out with their own stories. One had fled a narcissistic sister. Another had been blamed for something her cousin did. Another had been gaslit for decades by a perfect sibling everyone loved and no one truly knew. I answered every single one, because I remembered how it felt to speak into the void and hear nothing back. Now I wanted to be the voice that said, "I hear you." That evening, Jackson and I sat on the couch, Cale sprawled across both our laps like a heat lamp in pajamas. We watched reruns of some old sitcom we both forgot the plot to, but we laughed anyway. In the soft glow of the screen, I looked at him and said, "I think this is the first time I've felt chosen." He didn't say anything. He didn't have to. Later, as I turned off the lights, I checked my phone one last time. A new message. No name, just one line. She's not done. She's coming back. And she's not alone. She didn't show up in person. Instead, Taryn released one final video, a tear-streaked montage of childhood photos and soft piano music, claiming she'd been attacked by cancel culture, abandoned by her family, and wrongfully accused by a jealous sister desperate for relevance. But this time, the public didn't buy it. The comments turned quickly. So did the platforms. Within hours, her accounts were flagged for misinformation. A day later, most were deactivated. I watched it unfold from the living room, Cale asleep against my shoulder, his tiny hand curled around my necklace like he'd always been there. Jackson sat beside me, laptop open, reviewing the email from the attorney. "It's official," he said. "She's being investigated for fraud, defamation, and will tampering, federal level." I didn't feel triumphant, just steady, like a wire inside me had finally stopped vibrating. The lawsuit gained traction. Rhea gave her deposition under oath. Maris and Aunt Cora submitted written statements. Even Mom spoke to investigators. It was short, 2 pages, but signed and notarized. She'd finally stopped protecting Taryn, too late to fix what she'd broken, but just in time to start something new. Still, I couldn't help replaying the voicemail Taryn left days earlier. She's not done. She's coming back. And she's not alone. I had braced for another attack, another spin of her narrative. But nothing came. Instead, her manager issued a formal statement. All future collaborations had been suspended. Legal representation had been reassigned. Taryn vanished. No more reels, no comeback interviews, no memoir. She just disappeared. I expected to feel empty without her shadow. Instead, I felt like I could finally exhale. It didn't mean everything healed instantly. Some nights I still woke in a sweat, expecting a camera outside the window or a photo slipped under the door. But Cale's breath beside me, Jackson's steady hand on my back, that brought me back. One afternoon, weeks later, I sat under the oak tree near the base, Cale toddling barefoot in the grass while I scrolled through emails. An alert popped up. Subject: Taryn Voss. Accounts terminated. Her last digital trace gone. I closed my phone and watched Cale pluck a dandelion, squinting at the fluff like it held secrets. The sun caught in his hair, and in that moment I saw all the reasons I'd fought. Not for revenge, not even for justice, but for him, for the quiet, the peace, for the chance to build something better from the ashes. Jackson met us at the park later, still in uniform, his sleeves rolled up, tired but smiling. He kissed the top of my head, scooped Cale into his arms and said, "He smells like grass and snacks." I laughed. We walked home slowly, together. That night, I cooked dinner without glancing over my shoulder. No texts, no threats. Just music playing in the background and the sound of Cale dragging a wooden spoon across the kitchen floor. After we ate, Jackson lifted him high in the air and spun until they both collapsed on the couch in a heap of giggles and bare feet. I stood at the doorway, watching them, and I finally let myself believe it. We were safe. Later, I sat on the porch alone, warm coffee in hand, the cicadas buzzing like they had that night so long ago when this story began. Back when silence had power. Back when family meant loyalty at any cost, even truth. But I'd learned something in the wreckage. Sometimes the most dangerous legacy isn't what's passed down. It's what's protected in the name of keeping peace. Taryn wore the costume of a sister, a daughter, a success story. But behind the cameras, she was a storm. And we all chose to live in the eye of it, hoping if we stayed still enough, it wouldn't see us. But storms don't need permission to destroy, only silence. That was the lesson. That silence can be as cruel as a slap. That standing up doesn't always look like shouting. It can look like walking away, holding your child close and saying, "Not this time." And finally, meaning it. If you've ever felt like no one believed you, like the truth was too quiet to matter, I hope my story reminded you, your voice is enough. Always has been. Thanks for staying with me through this. If my journey meant something to you, please like, subscribe, comment, or share your own story below. And don't forget to watch the next video, Another Voice Finally Rising.